Welcome into No Punt Intended, presented by Club Fantasy. I am your host, Joe Zollo. Back at it this week, special time, 9 p.m. It is the wide receiver ranking show. We are just over 2 weeks away from the start of real NFL football. We are just around the corner, ladies and gentlemen. We're talking receivers today, the same core group of guys. Let's get into it. Welcome into No Punt Intended, presented by Club Fantasy. I am your host, Joe Zollo. As always, Joshua and Ryan. And for these 4 weeks of shows, Chris Molina and Joel. Gentlemen, how are we doing today? Everyone feeling great? Beautiful.
Another evening talking rankings. I'm good. I'm down with it.
And we are loaded up at the wide receiver position. No time for NFL news this week, although god damn what I love to talk about that stupid-ass Tua situation, which is exactly why I have the Brian Flores pep talk underneath. Neither here nor there. I'm sure we'll discuss that at a later date. But, Josh, we are at 9 p.m., obviously for the Women Fantasy Football shows. How has that been going?
So through 3 weeks of raffles, we have raised $2,095. We hit $675 this week. We gave away a signed Sam Laporta jersey and a signed Amon-Ra St. Brown jersey. So congratulations to Jason Smith for winning the Amon-Ra St. Brown jersey. And congratulations to our own Wendy Early for winning the Sam Laporta jersey.
Go Wendy.
So super excited about that. And we have 2 more raffles that are ongoing right now. You can head over to womenoffantasyfootball.com. This week's guest, we just interviewed Stacey Perez from right here at Club Fantasy, as well as Fantasy and Frames, and Stephanie Stradley, who writes about the Houston Texans for the Houston Chronicle. And then next week, Kelly will be sitting down with Susie Schuster-Eisen. Yes, you know the last name. That is Rich Eisen's wife. She also co-hosts the What the Football podcast with last year's WAF podcast guest, Amy Trask.
Woo, woo. Wow. What a lineup. What a lineup to wrap it up with. And draft season is here, and if you're like me, you're not drafting until Labor Day weekend outside of one league that I can't get to change their fucking minds on. But we're not drafting till Labor Day weekend. But if you need anything, draft season, partner with Trophy Smack, trophysmack.com //WOFF. And they have free 2-day air. I saw Kelly's little tweet earlier today. I didn't know that, so that's fantastic. Don't even have to be a Prime member. You get free 2-day air with Trophy Smack. And if you need anything, draft boards, all that fun stuff, you're drafting in person, go there for that. And everything that we have through the month of Women Fantasy Football, it's all going to go to the scholarship fund for Galvanize. All right, here we go. Consensus top 12 on the website for these 4 gentlemen. Number 1 is CeeDee Lamb, Tyreek Hill, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase rounds out the top 5, A.J. Brown, Puka Nacua, Garrett Wilson, Drake London, Marvin Harrison at 10, Chris Olave and Devontae Adams rounds out the 12 spot. I'm going to change this question just a little bit. Lamb is the consensus 1. He's currently, in terms of ESPN ADP, he's actually second behind Tyreek Hill right now.
Oh, wow, that finally happened.
He has dropped. So Tyreek Hill is going 1-2, CeeDee Lamb's going 1-3. Obviously, Christian McCaffrey, the 1-1. If this continues, let's just say CeeDee Lamb, let's just say he is definitely not playing week 1. Let's say he's out week 1, maybe out week 2. How far down are you dropping him, Josh?
I mean, I dropped him recently to my wide receiver 2. I have Tyreek Hill as the 1. For me, it's just anytime you're missing camp, you have to get into football shape. So you're not going to come in seeing, 10, 15 targets right out of the gate if you haven't literally played at all. Like, Dak's going to continue to throw to the guys he's comfortable throwing to, which is Brandon Cooks and Jalen Tolbert and Jake Ferguson and I guess Zeke Elliott. But it's gonna take a couple games for CeeDee Lamb to get ramped up. And I mean, granted, we've seen some very high target games from CeeDee Lamb last year. I think there was one game where he had 19. Like he had like a 3 or 4 game stretch where it was like 15, 12, 13, 19. Like it was all over the board. So like I'm not worried that he's gonna catch that back up. But I mean, how much do you really believe in Brandon Cooks being able to, I guess, take targets or keep a defense honest for them not to be like, let me just throw 3 guys over on CeeDee Lamb now.
It's a real
At least Tyreek Hill has options around him. Like Jalen Waddle can absolutely throttle the defense.
That's a real long-winded way of saying you're not dropping him at all. So I'll go to Ryan next, and maybe it'll be a shorter answer.
I don't know that I'd let him get out of round 1, but I would say in my rankings, he's probably falling to the 8 or 9.
Okay. Joel?
I'm not moving him very much, if at all. I don't think this happens. Like he'll be fine. He is that offense. So yeah, I'm just not moving him down that far. I'm not that worried about it.
Okay. Chris?
And I also draft Labor Day weekend. Unless we know he's missing games, he's still my wide receiver 1. If we know he's missing games by then, I'm not drafting him. Unless, I guess, I think Ryan mentioned it at the turn. You can pair him with another wide receiver 1. So in case he misses a ton of games, you're not completely dead.
I will add in that CeeDee Lamb was horrible the first 4 weeks of last season and was still
worked out real well.
Still was the wide receiver 1. So even if CeeDee isn't in football shape by week 4, all you need is week 5 through 17, apparently.
I need to know there's an end in sight. You said if he misses 2 weeks, but the problem is when do we know that ends? And that just bothers me. So I'll be putting it bluntly and buttoning this up. If there's no end in sight, I'm not drafting him. There's just better options. Someone else is going to draft him before I'm willing to pay for him. So,
Another Bell situation.
Yeah, 100%.
At the 7 through 12, currently Puka Nacua, Garrett Wilson, Drake London, Marvin Harrison, Chris Olave, Devontae Adams. Looking at the 7 through 12, best chance to finish overall wide receiver 1. I'll go in reverse. Chris, you have, of course, Puka Nacua, none other.
I was going to put Devontae Adams, but Joel beat me to it. Kudos to Joel on that one. But I do think Puka has a shot. I mean, he was a wide receiver 4 last year on only 6 touchdowns. He was a wide receiver 3 from weeks 1 through 4 with only 1 touchdown. And yeah, that was when Kupp was hurt. However, when Kupp came back, the offense was humming. Kyren came back. Puka was the wide receiver 3 in the last 5 weeks of the season, including a shootout in Baltimore. So he's done it before. If we tweak his touchdown percentage just a little bit, I could see him shooting up the draft boards.
Joel, you have Devontae. Shocking that the Rams fan went with Puka and the Packers fan went with Devontae Adams, but continue.
Yeah, I'll take the guy who's done it before, right? I mean, he's going to get just absolutely peppered with targets in that offense. Like we talked about CeeDee Lamb being the offense. He is that offense. He's a good fit with Gardner Minshew because Minshew's not going to be a guy who's going to, try and chuck it deep all the time. So Minshew's a limited player, but he's going to be fine getting the ball to Adams and Brock Bowers. Bowers kind of takes some pressure off of that. So it's a good setup. He's not aging at all, right? He's still just he's shown no sign of drop off, no injury issues. So yeah, he's done it before. So of these guys, I think he could do it again.
From old Devontae Adams to new Devontae Adams, Ryan, you have Garrett Wilson, who was lighting up the practice field today against the, Division III, junior squad of the New York Giants secondary. But go ahead.
Well, you've basically given my analysis. New Devontae Adams. This guy should be the alpha, and we should see him score more than the 4 career high touchdowns he has. Like the guy's managed 4 and 3 touchdowns with just nothing at quarterback. I don't know how much faith I have in Aaron Rodgers, but if I'm looking at this group, as Joel mentioned, you're going to go with the guy who's done it before. Well, the reason that guy's done it before is because he was hyper-targeted by a quarterback, and I'm hoping that quarterback's going to come in and hyper-target the new guy.
And Josh is really shooting for the Max Kellerman on first take role with his picks.
I got to the show sheet late. What do you want from me? There's only so many options.
We're allowed to agree.
It's crazy because
sometimes it's okay to have a bit of a contrarian take, right?
I mean, I love Drake London as much as I might be one of Drake London's biggest fans. I think
Joe
9 is his ceiling.
I would say Joe is the first Drake London tout I know of. So
I was massive.
I mean,
on Drake
at the end of the
London.
day, I'm looking at he's had a 28% target share.
Cool.
He can command targets in an offense, right? That's what I want to see. Going back to college, he knows how to score touchdowns. Now he actually has a quarterback. So the sky's truly the limit, right? Like we've talked about third-year breakouts. This happens to be his third season. We might actually be seeing like peak Drake London and why he was actually selected over Garrett Wilson in the 2021, 2022 NFL draft, whatever year that was, but 22.
If it's his third year, Josh, do the math.
Yeah, I know. Dude, it's been a long day, all right? I don't want to hear it.
If it's his third year, do the math. I would love to see a little Garrett Wilson, Drake London 1-2 finish.
I mean, it's very well possible. When I saw this question, I was like, ooh, can I fit A.J. Brown in there? I was like, damn, he's 6. Okay, never mind. Because that's my pick for wide receiver 1 anybody.
Obviously, the homer pick there. Moving on to the wide receiver 2s, the top consensus, top 13 through 24. Mike Evans at 13, Cooper Kupp, who has been shooting up draft boards. He was down in like the low. He was in the high 20s. Yeah, he was in the high 20s in sometime in July, and everyone's like, "Oh, he's still good." And Matthew Stafford is still healthy. Great, we're going to keep him there. Wide receiver 14, Nico Collins at 15, DK Metcalf at 16, DJ Moore, Jalen Waddle, Brandon Ayuk, Devonta Smith at 20, Deebo Samuel, Michael Pittman, T. Higgins, and George Pickens. Now, this is the dark horse to finish as a top 5, not as the wide receiver 1, but as a top 5. And before we actually dive into this, perfect timing, fly Nelly fly. Question: Chase, Connor, Taylor for Hall, Olave, and Pittman in a trade. Who wins? So this would be Jamar Chase, James Conner, and Jonathan Taylor for Breece Hall, Chris Olave, Michael Pittman. I'm going to assume this is a dynasty league because I can't imagine you're already trading in redraft. That would be bonkers if you are. And if you're still here, please, if you could say what the league is, that definitely helps. But Josh, I'll start with you. Which side are you on here, assuming Dynasty will just go 1 point PPR, most standard leagues?
Whether it's Dynasty or redraft, I'm taking the side with Chase and Taylor.
Okay. Ryan.
Chase is the best piece. So for the Dynasty part, that's what kind of weighs me on this. And then
it is redraft.
Oh, wow.
Hell yeah.
Wow.
So first off, I love your league because it's August 21st, and you guys clearly just need to calm down just a tiny bit. We're a little excited, but Ryan, go ahead.
Man, I was going to say the redraft pulls me towards the others. I'll say redraft. I'm going to go with the other side. I think Breece Hall is primed for a really big year this year, and Jamar Chase is another CeeDee Lamb right now. He's not getting the attention, but it's the same sort of thing. And Chad Ochocinco said this week he does not think Jamar Chase steps on the field without a contract. So,
if there's one guy I kind of believe, it would be Ochocinco.
Yeah.
Joel.
I'm going to take the side with 2 receivers, so I'm going to take Olave and Pittman just because I feel like I can find a second running back somewhere else.
Okay. And Chris.
No, I'm in agreement. I'll take Olave and Pittman, Breece Hall over James Conner and Taylor.
So I assume he is on the Breece Hall side of this trade because he dropped in. Caleb Williams and Kirk Cousins at quarterback. Breece Hall, ETN, Austin Eckler, Marvin Harrison, Chris Olave, Michael Pittman, Calvin Ridley, Mike Williams, Kyle Pitts, Dallas Goedert, Younghoe Koo, Eagles, and Raiders defense. This is a redraft.
I'm guessing you're worried about your running back depth, but I'm still not making this trade for running back depth. So.
Yeah, I would have. Okay, so if this trade hasn't been made, then I don't know if it's been made or hasn't been made, but I like the Breece Hall side. This is the running back guy. Hello, not a James Conner fan, and I think Breece Hall finishes as the RB1 this year. So
just trade Calvin Ridley for a running back. You'll be fine.
Yeah, that's honestly the easiest way to do it. You don't need to do a big trade like this, but
can we be real? I don't hate his running backs.
I was going to
say,
I
love his running
backs. Look great, actually. Yeah, your running backs look fantastic in my opinion. I think you maybe need to beef up the third wide
In all
receiver,
honesty, I
maybe.
question how you pulled this team off ADP wise because
Well, he
Brees-
waited on quarterback. You have to imagine.
yeah, because Brees would have been your early pick, and then I don't know who the late pick is. Yeah, Ridley for Connor. I'm fine.
Ridley for James Conner.
Yeah, I like that deal. I think that works out for both sides, truthfully.
Ridley for James Conner, I would do. I think Ridley's expendable. If you can
wouldn't.
wipe if you can wipe Mike Williams off your roster, that would be a fantastic.
Yeah, Mike Williams for James Conner.
There's going to be running backs on the waiver wire that are going to make people seasons. So I would spend your priority position, your waiver wire fab on, drop Dallas Goedert.
Yes,
Oh,
do that
I would-
immediately. I was going to say you don't need 2 tight ends and 2 defenses unless it's required. I do
Yeah.
have one league where they require I carry 2 defenses.
This question makes so much more sense now that you were pissed drunk at 10.
I'm
This
more
makes-
concerned with how the fuck he got Brees Hall at 10. So I don't know that you were the drunkest.
That
This
is
is
crazy.
also true.
Yeah.
That is crazy. Yeah, that's pretty. I didn't even think of that. That is insane. So you have to imagine it was live in person as well. That's
But
fantastic.
you have to go Hall MHJ.
Marvin Harrison, right?
Which
And
So
then
how did he get Olave?
I would
was
have
gonna
to
say,
imagine
which
it's
means
Etienne Olave.
Etienne Olave fell to 3-4. That's nuts.
That's ridiculous.
Which then you go
Home leagues,
Pittman and-
man.
Pittman and then Kyle
No doubt.
Pitts.
Yeah.
Pittman, Kyle Pitts, and then Caleb Williams in the 7th.
Or did
You don't
Harrison
even
just
get
go
Caleb
super late because he's a
I say-
rookie? That's the only thing.
I'm
that
not
makes
gonna lie to
sense.
you. That's a great
like a
draft
math
for picking at
problem.
10. That's an awesome draft
Honestly,
for picking at
it's
10.
Ridiculous.
I was gonna, he said there was a QB
Quarterback
tight
tight
end
in the second. Okay. Oh, that's a home league straight up. That is a home league straight up. I love that. That's what I need to do. I
amazing.
need to get my friends piss ass drunk so I can get the best team. Oh, I love that for you. Oh, what a fantastic story. Okay, back to the show at hand and the receivers that this is insane that he has according to us 3 top 22 wide receivers.
Yeah.
So this is insane. Emma, shut up. This is insane. Now, Nelly, I would like to tell you that nobody has Michael Pittman as a dark horse for a top 5 wide receiver. So I'll start with you there. But I'm going to wrap around again. Josh, apparently you said, you know what, let me list his full name.
Yeah.
I'm making a
DeKalen
point with this.
Zacharias Metcalf. You think he could finish top 5?
Yeah, this system that Ryan Grubb is going to be implementing is tailor-made for what DK is good at. He can get down the field. He's faster than damn near every corner in the league. He's bigger than every corner in the league. He scores touchdowns. He has 3 seasons over 15.5 yards per reception and set a career high at 16.9 last year. You add that in with a career high 141 targets that he saw a few years ago. He has the potential to be a top 5 wide receiver, again, in this spread style offense. Now, obviously, there's a lot of things could go wrong, right? You're talking about a college coordinator coming into the NFL, trying to implement something that worked in college. We've seen it all the time not work in the NFL. Geno Smith at quarterback. Well, sure. All right, we get that. But at the end of the day, what they're ultimately trying to do is rip it down the field. Guess who happens to be really good at just ripping it down the field, whether he's accurate with it or not? That's Sam Howell. So I'm really not that worried about targets coming DK's way. And he's big enough to win those contested catches. He scores touchdowns, gets the yards after the catch. From this group, in my opinion, I mean, again, I think Cooper Kupp clearly is one of those guys, Brandon Ayuk. But I think this year, with where everything is set up, DK has that ceiling for me.
Who is starting in Seattle? Is it not Geno?
Geno.
It's Geno.
No, it is Geno.
Okay.
That's what I mentioned, like a so-so quarterback in Geno.
Okay.
He
He's
regressed
saying
last
if Geno
year,
were
but
to be
we
replaced,
saw a good
Yeah,
Geno,
yeah.
and we saw a good season out of DK when Geno was good. So
Yeah, I heard Sam Howell and I was like, okay, sure. We'll put a top 5 wide receiver with a backup quarterback. That's big time. Ryan, over to you, my darling, DJ Moore.
Yeah, I mean, we saw a good DJ Moore last year in a bad offense with a bad quarterback, and I just think we've seen enough from Caleb Williams to be excited. He's making exciting throws. The long and short is, how is the competition for targets going to play out? And none of us actually knows. With Keenan Allen there, but aging, with Roma Dunze, and it looks like there's some chemistry brewing there as well. The fact of the matter is this: I think DJ Moore's a better receiver than both of them at this stage in their career. All due respect to Keenan Allen, always. But at this stage of the career, I think DJ Moore is the better receiver. I just need to see a hyper target share for him to get up there. The talent is there, and I think the talent's there at quarterback. I think it's going to be a really good season for DJ Moore for him to crack that top 5. Just need to see a lot of targets, and I don't know if that's going to happen, but he would be the guy out of this group that I think it could for.
Okay, Chris, we'll go to you. Another homer pick, Cooper Kupp.
Hey, this one was actually a good pick. Joel took my first.
I mean, I don't disagree with you. It's just, you picked 2 Rams so far.
Hey, there's only 3 Rams that matter in fantasy football.
That's true.
That's fair.
It's the red zone. 19 targets in only 12 games last year, dealing with injuries, dealing with some different schemes, things like that. Puka only had 15 in 17 games. Inside the 5, Kupp had 5 targets. The rest of the team combined had 11. Obviously, we know what he did in 2021. We know what he was doing in 2022. I actually wrote an article about this. It's on the Club Fantasy website. If you want to read into it a little bit more, I think I'm posting it now. Or it failed, whatever. But the Rams offense is boiled down to 3 people. It's Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp, and whoever the third person is. It could be Tyler Higbee, could be Demarcus Robinson, but the 2 of them only had 137 targets combined. Puka had 160. Kupp's used to having around 160 a year. There's no reason why Kupp can't repeat as a top 10 guy. Maybe the number 1 upside is it's gone now, but it's still his offense. We hear great things coming from camp. It's running through Cooper Kupp, so I don't see why he can't repeat.
Okay. Joel, your guy is Deebo Samuel, and I left this last because apparently Josh doesn't like Deebo Samuel. So, Joel, let's.
To be fair, Ryan put that note in the show sheet.
I just was shocked when I saw Josh's ranking of Deebo, so we had to fit it into the show somewhere.
Okay, Joel, why do you like Deebo?
So the 49ers are $58 million over the cap for next year before signing Trent Williams and before signing Brandon Ayuk. There is 0.0% chance that Deebo is a part of this team next year. They are going to run the piss out of him. He is going to be CMC's backup. Yeah. He is going to score 15 touchdowns. I mean, there's just no way he doesn't lead this team in touches.
Boom. Fuck you, Josh, because I love Deebo too.
Josh, I don't love Deebo. I got him the 1 year he was good, and
everybody is aware
to the championship.
What threw me off is as I go through these rankings and prepare this show sheet, I can usually catch players that like one of us is way off on, and I was shocked to see Deebo Samuel at 21 because I know how high I have him. So I have him at 9. Molina has him at 16. Joel has him at 16. Josh has him at 38, and that's with a half-point PPR adjustment from Fantasy Pros because Josh admitted he actually has him at 40, and Fantasy Pros moved him up Josh's rankings.
Yeah, that's insane. I think he's a low-end wide receiver too.
Josh thinks he's a wide receiver 5.
Yeah, that's
5, Josh.
That's insane. That's kind of insane. Please explain yourself. That one's kind of insane.
So, first off, my stat projections actually are pretty in line with what he did last year, minus like 2 touchdowns. So when I do my rankings, they're based on season long, not points per game. And they're not really factoring in people only playing 9 games, 8 games, 11 games, etc. Right? This offense is designed to be hyper efficient. It's not target extensive. He's not going to see 100 targets. His rushing output has decreased each of the past 3 years. And you know why? Because he can't stay healthy. He's not somebody that typically plays 17 games. The one time that he did, he had an all-star season. That's great. Awesome. Brandon Ayuk was only in his 2nd year, and he was in the doghouse in San Francisco. He is a playmaker. He's not a wide receiver. That's my biggest issue here. His touchdowns over his career per season, 6, 1, 14, 5, 12. What does that tell you? He's going to have like 4 this year. That's simple math, right? Just follow the numbers, guys.
I do personally, I do love that logic. I play that logic with defenses sometimes.
This is what I'm saying. He's probably only going to play 11 games because 1 rush, he's going to get tackled and he's going to get hurt. But to me, the biggest key in all of this, the one person that nobody is talking about, Trent Williams is not in camp. He is holding out. When this team did not have Trent Williams last year, they looked like a 3-14 team. They were god awful. Awful. So you take the best player off of a horrible offensive line, mind you. What is that going to do? It's going to make everything worse. Brock Purdy's not going to have time to throw the football. Debo can't do the things that he does that actually makes him good. So, yeah, that's why I have him that low. Would I draft him? Yes, I have zero issue drafting him, but I'm more willing to draft him as my wide receiver 3 versus the high-end wide receiver 2, low-end wide receiver 1 where he's going because so many people are worried about Brandon Ayuk.
I don't want to defend Debo here, but you're going to make me.
Let the Rams fan defend the 49er. Go ahead.
I mean, I have him statted out for 60 receptions, 10 total touchdowns, 250 yards rushing. And that comes out to my wide receiver 16. Those are all reasonable outputs too. So, what do you have in your projections?
I have him at 91 targets, 59 catches, 834 yards, 4 touchdowns, 183 rushing yards, and 4 touchdowns.
Only a 50.
That's what I said. I'm not very far off on everything that he did last year. It's within 2 touchdowns.
It's the touchdowns that have us separated because I have him with 7 receiving, 4 rushing. And
exactly.
As Joel said, this guy could score 15 touchdowns. I'm much more on the Joel side of things than the Josh side.
And that's the biggest thing when we're working on projections. It's the touchdowns that always fluctuate. You have literal evidence with Deebo Samuel how the touchdowns fluctuate in his career. So I'm going to take the low end this year. If I'm wrong, guess what? I'm wrong. So be it.
So what if, and this is the case I've made, what if without Dre Greenlaw, without Chase Young, this defense regresses to just okay instead of being really effing good, and they have to throw a shit ton more because they're behind in games and they can't just sit on the ball in the second half like they did last year.
Was Dre Greenlaw the X factor on that defense?
Go back
to
to
what we're going with?
Did they stop Kansas City after he left the Super Bowl at all? Ever?
Is that Fred Warner?
I mean, to be fair, they should have, maybe run the football more than 30% of the time in the second half, and maybe they wouldn't have to stop him as much. But I'm not going to say Dre Greenlaw was the reason. I'm just not going to say that.
They lost
Joel,
3 starters off that defense.
Okay.
Joel, to your point.
Got to replace that somehow.
Yeah.
Okay. Joel, to your point, the last 6 years with Kyle Shanahan calling the plays,
he's been bad.
They have one time they have thrown the football more than 532 times. One time. Okay. So
I'm just saying this defense is going to be different than the 49ers defenses we've seen the last couple of years.
I'm not, and again, I'm not disputing that because I think the 49ers do regress this year, mostly because they lost the Super Bowl and history tells us they're going to regress. So that's just baked into reality at that point. But Shanahan is not going to throw the football 600 times. That's not his MO. It's not his game. So that's going to keep Debo's target. It's not going to matter because even when he does have a choice, he still runs the football.
To be fair, Arthur Smith had choices, and he chose the latter.
Thank you. So. It's one of those things
Arthur Smith has never seen a Super Bowl
they are. Fucking believe him. Plain and simple. He has literally shown us what he is as a play caller. Fucking believe him.
Bad. Bad. Guys. I laid it out. The man can't call in big games. I was
just saying, you lay it out in big games. He's proven himself in the regular season.
Oh no, he's great in the regular. Ryan, he's fantastic in the regular season. For some reason, I don't know if his belt gets a little too tight come the fucking playoffs, but he forgets what an actual offense is. But yes, Ryan, you don't need to delete questions. I was already going to skip that one. Perfect. So I'm ahead of you.
Hey, I created this monster. I'm gonna slaughter it as I need to.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, and we're gonna go with who are we too high on here again. This is the top 24. We're talking about who we're too high on. We'll wrap back around the opposite direction. Joel, right back to you. Don't let Chris see this. Too bad he filled out the sheet himself, the Cooper Kupp, and is in front of us. So you think we're too high on Cooper Kupp?
Yeah, and I don't dislike Cooper Kupp. I just think he should be much closer to the back end of this tier than the top end. If you look at the other kind of 1B receivers on this list, like Jalen Waddle, Brandon Ayuk, Devonta Smith, T. Higgins even. I would rather have any of those guys than Kupp. Kupp's peripheral numbers have been declining significantly the last 3 years. And
Chris is leaving the show.
T. Higgins was a bold take. T. Higgins was a bold take.
I mean, really, any of them. Me and Josh fought for weeks last year on Jalen Waddle, and I have come to the dark side. Fuck Jalen Waddle. Are you serious?
It's Tyreek Hill and all of the running backs.
Yeah.
That's it. I think everyone's
Waddle's
too high on Waddle.
Until Tyreek needs a breather. It's plain and simple.
I think everyone's too high on Waddle. Just consensus here. Chris, I'll have you talk about Devonta Smith here.
Okay, Devonta Smith. This is kind of hard because there was only 2 guys in my rankings that didn't really line up in the 13 through 24, and that was Devonta Smith. He's my wide receiver 27. It's kind of splitting hairs, but I think we've seen the upside with Devonta Smith. He's going to, come around 120 targets, 1,000 yards, 6 touchdowns. It's not exciting. And when you plug that in to my projections, at least that comes out with wide receiver 27. Even Sleeper's catching up with this. They have him as the ADP of wide receiver 24. So everyone else on this list is higher than on Devonta Smith than Sleeper is. AJ Brown, he's the alpha. Saquon Barkley is going to be commanding more targets, more touches than DeAndre Swift did. We might only see 110, 120 targets from Devonta Smith unless we're trying to factor in an injury, and we just don't do that. Last thing I'll say is the red zone. He only had 6 targets in the red zone. Julio Jones almost had as much red zone targets as Devonta Smith did. AJ Brown just dominates that area. AJ Brown dominates.
A dog in the red zone.
Yeah. If that doesn't
talk
change,
about how Julio Jones had more red zone targets in Philadelphia at age 40 than he did in Atlanta at age 28.
That's a problem.
If Nick Sirianni could do one thing, it's get Julio Jones fucking involved in the game plan. What is that bullshit stat? Sorry, Chris.
That's crazy.
No,
That's
you're fine.
crazy.
I was just saying, if that doesn't change, I don't see him as more than a low-end wide receiver 2, maybe a high-end wide receiver 3.
Remember the year Julio didn't fucking score a touchdown until week 11?
And
Still was a wide receiver 3 that year because he's insane. But yeah, crazy. Where am I looking here? Sorry, my apologies. Ryan, to you, how much worse could you talk about the Colts if you tried?
The fact that I've made
Have you been trying, or do you need?
They let Gardner Minshew go, and Ryan said, "Fuck the Colts."
I've made it clear for months I don't trust Anthony Richardson. I've come around on him as a fantasy asset. He's finally moved into my top 12 at quarterback. Though actually, I think he just fell back to 13 today when I did my latest adjustment. So I still don't trust Anthony Richardson, but I certainly don't trust him as a thrower. I certainly don't trust him to throw 150 targets Michael Pittman's way. If he does
trust him to throw 150 times?
There's that. I was going to make that joke as well. But if he does throw it 150 times, I don't trust Michael Pittman to catch 110 of those balls. Like, there's so many things wrong with what we saw from Pittman last year to what we should see in this very run-heavy offense this year. Right now, trusting him as a wide receiver 2 in fantasy just is not it for me. How Josh feels about Debo is how I feel about Pittman. I might gamble on him on a wide receiver 3, but someone's going to pay up for him before I ever have that opportunity.
That's this soundbite's gonna bite you in the ass when Joe Flacco comes in for 6 games.
If it's Joe Flacco, I take that L. I take that L proudly.
We're gonna bite you in the ass when Michael Pittman
And again,
has a
Anthony
Josh
Richardson
Gordon
could prove
type
me,
season when
Anthony
Joe Flacco
Richardson
comes in.
could prove me wrong. I don't think he will.
He's not gonna. You're fine. That one's safe. That one's safe.
Where are the targets going to go, though, without Josh Downs for a period of time, like Alec Pierce, Adonai Mitchell?
I don't have anybody else on this team above 90 targets. The fact of the matter is I barely have this team throwing the ball 500 times. I just don't. I have Pittman right now at 145 targets, which is still 28% of the target share. But then I have his catch percentage dropping, though I have his yards per catch going up. There's just a lot of things where he just doesn't fall in line for me with what we saw last year. I think last year was carried by 110 targets and 1,100 yards, and I just don't see that getting anywhere near that. So.
Wait, you have him at more targets than I do, and I have him at the wide receiver 14?
Yeah,
How many touchdowns do you have him at?
Ryan's rankings are out of control.
5.
Oh, I have him at 2, so we clearly...
I was going to say, I have him at 7. I have him at 138 targets and less than 1,000 yards. So, because I think a lot of the deep balls aren't going to him. They're going to Mitchell, They're going to Pierce. Like that's where he's going to stretch the field and down.
They're going to the other team.
Or that, yeah. I do have him at 10 interceptions, so there is that. But I only have him with 423 pass attempts. So Ryan,
that's the
I
thing
agree with you on that front. Yeah,
it's clear it's because of me that we're so high on him.
So it's your fault.
Else's
Thanks,
rankings.
Chris.
I thought you and Joel actually weren't. No, never mind. You and Joel are far off on that one because I saw
have
me
him
and
at
Josh
14.
were close. But yeah, you have him all the way up at 14, dragging him into that top 24.
Yeah, you're welcome.
To wrap up this, Josh, I'll let you emote while I say your tidbit here. You have Chris Olave because dude can't score TDs.
Is 9 in 2 years. I mean,
You said emote. You said shrug. I don't know what
there you go.
Fantastic.
I mean, he's Terry McLaurin. Have we not learned our lesson with this? We keep putting Terry McLaurin in this conversation, and he keeps under-delivering. This is Terry McLaurin 2.0.
Please stop talking poorly about Terry McLaurin. Okay? Please stop.
I'm saying every year we count him as a top 15 wide receiver. He doesn't deliver. Like, there's literally practice footage of Derek Carr just blindly overthrowing him in the flat of all things. Like, I get the idea of what Clint Kubiak brings to the table. I get it. Clint Kubiak is not Kyle Shanahan. He was not a great play caller even when he was calling plays in Minnesota. So, and Chris Olave is not Justin Jefferson.
He brings his last name, and that's about it.
Precisely.
Okay.
Until they get a solid quarterback there, it's going to be a lot of empty targets and a lot of disappointment with Chris Olave.
What's funny about that, though, is he was the wide receiver 16 last year. Meanwhile, Garrett Wilson, Drake London are like high 3s and low 4s.
Yeah.
Imagine if he scored those touchdowns.
Who knows?
I mean, to counter that point, last year it was about league-wide, it was about 160 yards receiving for every touchdown. If you extrapolate that to Olave's career, he should have about 13. So if that regresses, he's fine. He had 13 and 12 touchdown seasons in college. It's not like he can't do it. He was playing in a Pete Carmichael offense, which is effing pathetic. So
I agree.
You've got to give him a little bit of the benefit of the doubt here.
Do I though?
You should. You should.
I think he just needs to link. His college quarterback was Justin Fields, right? I think they just need to link back up.
There you go.
Simply put, the issue of Chris Olave touchdowns and Justin Fields being a good NFL football player is that they're just not on the same team. I mean,
for what it's worth, I have Olave as my wide receiver 17. It's not like I'm like out on him, but I'm just not feeling it.
Sure.
It's just an unsexy pick for me.
Sure. Whatever you say, buddy. Consensus top 25 through 36, wide receiver 3s. Stephon Diggs, Amari Cooper, T-Mac, Terry McLaurin, Christian Kirk, Rashee Rice, and Chris Godwin at 30. Zay Flowers, Tank Dell, Malik Neighbors, Calvin Ridley, Deontay Johnson, and Jaden Reed rounding it out at 36. As I've been doing, we'll wrap it back the other way. Can anyone from the group crack the top 12? And unsurprisingly, Josh says Deontay Johnson. And that may be because he could have 350 targets this season. Josh, I don't not agree with you, but please.
Look, everybody knows how much I love Deontay Johnson. That's why I put in parentheses, but really it's Rashee Rice. I'll speak to both of them briefly. Deontay is going to be hyper-targeted in this offense. If Bryce Young takes any level of a step forward, he's going to have over 1,000 yards, over 8 touchdowns, or at least 8 touchdowns, in my opinion. And I think that, and likely 100 catches, honestly. So there's that. But Rashee Rice is not going to get suspended. I don't know why his ADP is so depressed. This is Alvin Kamara all over again. Rashee Rice is the wide receiver 1 on that team. He has Patrick Mahomes as his quarterback. He had over 900 yards and 7 touchdowns as a rookie last year. Only way to go but up.
This has been the only good PR for the Chiefs all offseason is that someone didn't get suspended or arrested.
Pretty much.
It's the best PR.
Well, he got arrested.
No, I know, but that's he got arrested, but like he hasn't been suspended.
Yeah.
But other guys have been arrested.
Well, they're waiting on that till next offseason just to drag the Chiefs through it again. So.
Exactly. Yeah, they really haven't. Even the fucking kicker has been a little sussy.
Yeah,
this offseason. The one guy you don't really have to worry about has been one of your biggest problem childs. Chris, you also have Rasheed as well, but you have Calvin Ridley.
Yeah, I like Calvin Ridley this year. He had 25 red zone targets last year. That's more than some teams were throwing in the red zone.
Yeah.
50 million guaranteed from the Titans. They're paying him to come in and be that wide receiver one. I know Hopkins is there, but Ridley's going to be that wide receiver one. And he wasn't that bad with Jacksonville. 136 targets, 76 receptions, 1,000 yards, 8 touchdowns. It's not too far off of what he would do with Atlanta back before injuries and he started dabbling in gambling. So he could still be. He could have still been rusty
it's just
too.
True. It's not even a joke. It's just true.
Just dipped a toe in the water.
Yes. See what it's like to bet on the Falcons, I guess.
Did we check to see if gambling is legal in Tennessee? I just want to throw that out there.
I think it is.
I don't know. But he goes to an offense where Will Levis is going to air it out more so than Trevor Lawrence. He averages 2 more air yards per attempt than Lawrence did. So he's going to be that deep threat. He's going to be a threat in the red zone too, even if Hopkins is as well. The Titans had 44 carries inside the 20 and only 26 pass attempts. That's probably going to flip without Derrick Henry involved this year. So there's a world where they both have 15 plus. And if he's, wide receiver 1, 10 plus touchdowns, I don't see why he can't get into the top 12.
How the mighty have fallen at the receiver position in Tennessee. If I told you 3 years ago that Calvin Ridley and DeAndre Hopkins were going to be on the same team together, that'd be a pretty good offense, no matter who the quarterback would be. Joel, he's been lighting up the highlight tapes in joint practices against his own secondary, which any of the 5 of us could do. But he's been looking great so far through preseason. Malik Neighbors.
What's the saying? Styrofoam sharpens iron.
Yes.
Yeah. If he hadn't had like Marvin Harrison Jr. in his own class, Malik Neighbors would have been the best wide receiver prospect in the last several years. I comped him to Tyreek Hill. He's not as fast as Tyreek Hill, but he plays very similarly in that he's got just insane acceleration and he can just like glide and sneak up on these D-backs and they just have no idea and he catches them flat-footed. If you look at his college tape, he was just someone that talented should not be as wide open as he was consistently. He's going to transform. He's a transformational prospect. He will transform that offense. I think he should be going much closer in drafts to where Marvin Harrison goes, which is pretty effing high because they're both elite.
Daniel Jones hasn't factored into your brain even a little bit.
I have nothing against Malik Neighbors.
He's awesome.
Every intelligent person I know who watched college football last year told me to love Malik Neighbors. And man, I was ready to love Malik fucking Neighbors until the Giants drafted him. And then
until the Chargers passed up on him.
I'm out.
So
that's it.
So
you're out.
Joel, I
I'm
don't
not out. Like I'm not
out.
In the ADP, again, I don't hate players. I hate ADP. There's never going to be a draft where Malik Neighbors is going to get to me where I'm comfortable taking him. Just plain and simple.
Yeah, I mean, if he's like my 4, maybe my 5, like if I go with super wide receiver heavy draft, I have zero issue with
just
Malik
stop.
Neighbors.
It's not happening. Josh, we saw it in Scott Fishbowl where we were in the heart of New York City, but then I did a draft like a week later, not with New York folks, where Malik Neighbors was a 3rd round pick. And I just no for me.
So
at a certain point, it's okay to chase targets until you realize those targets are empty. Daniel Jones fucking sucks, plain and simple.
He can't even
One thing
play
about
in the
Daniel Jones
preseason.
too. A little interesting nugget about Daniel Jones. He's never had a wide receiver go over 100 targets before in a season, and he hasn't had a wide receiver go over 80 in like 4 years, and that was like Golden Tate and
his
Sterling
rookie
Shep.
year, I believe he had
I was going to say
OBJ and Shepard.
That was more than 4
OBJ.
years
That
ago.
was Eli. That was part Eli.
He never had OBJ.
Yeah, he never really did. I mean, it's very true. And Chris, I mean, to add to that point, he hasn't had a healthy receiver for more than like 8 games in the season.
No,
as
yeah,
well,
he's going to shoot up 120 plus targets. But if we're projecting him for more than that, especially with Daniel Jones's love for Darius Slayton, that's where
they're
I'm
just not
at.
going to be good.
No,
Our offense is going to be so bad.
I think where Malik Neighbors, I don't hate where he is. I probably I'm never getting him because I go running back heavy. I'm never getting Malik Neighbors, but almost on any other team in this league, you would have been okay with him being again, obviously none of these teams would have been able to draft him. But if he ended up with Pittsburgh, regardless of Fields or Russell Wilson, you would have said, fine, I'll take Malik Neighbors. On New England, with their quarterback carousel, you still would have said, Jacoby Brissett has gotten people targets.
Yeah. I
It's
New
just a
England
slight
was
bump for
pretty
me.
equal with the Giants for me. I don't think I'm.
Listen, from a quarterback
Chargers.
perspective, I disagree. Again, I'm talking teams that would no way this would happen. Vikings take Jefferson and obviously Addison out of the question, but if he was the one in Minnesota with Sam Darnold, it's fine. That's okay. Daniel Jones is that bad. That is how bad Daniel Jones is. It's insane. I'm looking currently at the top 38 quarterbacks being taken. Daniel Jones is not being taken in fantasy football. Hendon
I feel
Hooker
like we need
has a
Joe,
higher
you remember
ADP.
that list that you did about the 70 quarterbacks you would take over
Better than
Newton?
Cam. I
we
think
need
I
one of
still
those
have.
with Daniel Jones.
I'm not gonna lie. I still might have that list. Give me a sec. Ryan, while I'm looking that up, I think you're the last guy here. Chris Godwin is an interesting name.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, anybody who's watched this show for any period of time knows that I'm just a sucker for coach speak, and they used a phrase that really, really did it for me: the Cooper Cup roll. And when I hear that for any wide receiver, my antennas go up. We saw Godwin with 130 targets last year. We've seen Godwin as a hyper-targeted guy. Last year, he only scored 2 touchdowns and was still a top 30 wide receiver. I just think we probably see positive regression when it comes to the touchdowns, and then likely more than 130 targets this season, which we already saw. We know he's going to catch them. I like Chris Godwin this year. We know what we're getting from Mike Evans. It's 1,000 yards. It's just a question of how many touchdowns to go with that 1,000 yards. I think Godwin's going to be a big target guy, and I'm hoping he can find the end zone more along the lines of Cooper Kupp versus 2 that we saw last year.
Dang, I really wish I still had that fucking ranking because I know simply from a
That's for another show, Joe.
from a monetary value, I had Nathan Peterman ahead of Cam Newton.
100% you do.
I would have just for the giggles would have much rather have
Probably
watched.
had Daniel Jones ahead of Cam Newton.
If the Chargers didn't pass up on Neighbors, they took Alt. Would we have him right there with Marvin Harrison in our rankings?
Probably.
Yeah, I mean,
and I don't
Maybe
think,
even better.
the Chargers should, and I don't think it's going to happen this year, the Chargers should support one really good wide receiver. I just don't think they have that really good wide receiver right now.
Maybe
So-
Josh Palmer, get out of your head. Come on.
Plus,
Quinn Johnston.
Josh Palmer, Lad
Palmer.
McConkey, leave the conversation.
We're going to talk about
okay?
Johnston here in a little bit, so we don't need to worry about that.
Not
But
Quentin Johnston. Not Quentin Johnston.
That's not a me problem. That's a Chris problem. We'll get to that later.
Not Quentin Johnston.
But the long and short is, yes, if he were on the Chargers, things could have been really, really nice for Malik Neighbors.
Okay. We got a question here from Fern. 69696969 if you're nasty.
Nice,
Should I trade
nice,
Pacheco for Olave and Godwin? He has Brees and James Cook. Receivers are Devontae Adams and DJ Moore. It's a 2-flex league. His second flex would be Zamir White. So he's currently sitting with Brees, Hall, James Cook, and call it Zamir White. And his receivers would then be Devontae Adams, DJ Moore, Chris Olave, and Chris Godwin. Personally, I'm okay with this. I am not an Isaiah Pacheco fan, and I already like your top 2 running backs, and I don't mind Zamir White as the third.
Yeah, you're getting 2 startable assets. I'll make the trade.
Yeah, I'd make the trade too.
Yeah,
It also
go get the
depends
wide
who you have to
receivers.
cut.
Especially if it's a 2-flex league, get the 2 wide
Yeah, who do you have to cut? That's a really good point.
Yeah, who do you have to cut as well? I mean, I'm sure obviously the person you have to cut is suckier
Quentin
than
Johnston.
Olave and Godwin. Yeah, cut Quentin Johnson if you have him. But it's probably
Not
suckier than
Dontavian Wicks,
Olave.
though, Ryan.
No, do not cut Dontavian Wicks.
He's also saying he has Calvin Ridley on the bench as well. So he would cut Tyler Lockett is what he was thinking.
Oh, that's easy. Yeah.
I mean, if you're telling me you're replacing Tyler Lockett with Olave or Godwin, that's fine with me.
Not to mention the flexibility, locking in those 4 wide receivers plus Calvin Ridley, and then you can spend the entire season cycling through running backs until you find some depth.
I'm okay with it.
Seems like you have the right running backs. So.
And well, I mean, even to that point too, have a week where Olave or Godwin pops off for a couple weeks. Trade for a running back. Like you could easily
you get to keep one of them and flip the other one.
And flip the other for a top running back. I would do it. I'm not a Pacheco fan. I don't like Isaiah Pacheco. So I'm all
I was gonna say I don't hate Pacheco despite how much traction my freaking tweet yesterday got. I think he's gonna be fine, but I mean you have a top 20 wide receiver and a top 30 wide receiver. I have zero issue taking that because you're going to start all those guys with the fact that you have to play 2 flexes.
Okay. Emma's saying, "Lad, please play." I would enjoy that for my dynasty team.
I say he just needs to get healthy. I just don't like him in year 1. So.
That's fair. Craig asking, "Is Zay Flowers not?" Hey, bitch, chill. I got it. Hey, y'all. Is Zay Flowers
don't
not?
Talk to Craig like that.
No, not
No,
Craig. Josh. Josh.
I was trying to star it, and I was like, "Oh shit! Did it pull up my bad?"
Bitch, I see it. Craig, thank you for the question. I'm gonna save some time. No one here thinks Zay Flowers is a wide receiver 1.
It depends on what you mean by in fantasy. No,
wide receiver 1 on his team.
Yes.
on his team, yes. In real life, yes. Not in fantasy football. I would venture.
Say, I have him at 24.
I would say I think the highest
34.
most of us would venture to put him at would be a low-end wide receiver 2.
I had a guy ask me about keeping him. I said, as long as you're expecting exactly what you got from him last year, that's what you're going to get from Zay Flowers. So.
Yeah, I don't think Baltimore's offense is changing to throw the football more, and I don't think he's getting any more targets. So the only thing you're maybe hoping is more touchdowns, which is hard to ask for in a Baltimore offense.
With a healthy Mark Andrews, I just don't see it happening.
A healthy Mark Andrews and Derrick Henry, who's going to be stealing red
and
zone
Isaiah Likely,
everything.
Who is tearing camp up right now. Isaiah Likely might be the wide receiver 2 on that team behind Mark Andrews. Zay Flowers might be the wide receiver 3 on his own team.
Fernos will has thoughts on Olave this year. I'll go back to what Josh said. He just struggles with touchdowns.
Some of us think. I say some of us think positive regression is coming and that he's going to be just fine. Josh thinks he is Terry McLaurin, perpetual wide receiver 2.
I think you also can kind of be the same thing with Zay Flowers and maybe expect the same thing because Derek Carr is Derek Carr and we know who he is. And he's going to be dump city to Alvin Kamara.
I said wide receiver 16 last year. I'm not mad at that.
Yeah, I'm definitely not. I'm not saying that I think he's being overvalued and he's being drafted way high at his ceiling right now. But if you can get him as a wide receiver 2, sure, I don't mind that. I just think he's not the deep threat on his team. That's Rashid Shaheed. He is the middle of the field guy. And when has Derek Carr been known to be a middle of the field guy, I think is the issue. So yes, you're going to have good games out of him, but you need to expect weeks where he has 3 catches for like 25 yards. There's going to be those weeks. And you have to live through the highs and the lows with Chris Olave, just like you would have last year. I had him on my team, so that's why I say that. Quickly, for these 2 questions. The Houston wide receivers, 3 of them inside the top 32. At cost, which do you prefer? Don't need an explanation. This is basically a would you rather. Joel, who would you rather? Collins, Diggs, or Dell?
Nico.
Okay.
By far.
Chris.
Think Dell, and it's not even close.
Ryan.
I agree with Joel with Nico.
Okay. Josh.
So I'm going to preface this. I know you said no explanation, but we just had Stephanie Stradley, who covers the Houston Texans, on the WAF podcast, and she was literally asked this exact same question. Her answer: they're going to play a 5-headed monster. CJ Stroud is just going to throw it to whoever is open. To me, that's whoever is on the field. Tank Dell is not going to be on the field as much as everybody else. So give me the cheaper of Collins and Diggs and give me Diggs.
Okay. Green Bay, going to your country, Joel. 34 is Jaden Reed. 39 is Christian Watson. Romeo Dobbs, 47 in hell. fuck it. Dontavian Wicks is 66. Where's Bo Melton?
Not. I say it's a big.
He's had a
4
terrible
now.
camp. He may not make the team. He's had a really bad camp.
R.I.P. My taxi squad. Which at cost do you prefer, Joel?
The answer is Christian Watson, because if he can stay healthy, and we have a plausible explanation for his hamstring issues, he's addressed that. It's gotten better. The offense will coalesce around him. He is the straw that stirs the drink in this offense. He was what opens everything up for everyone else. So, he is the one who has the elite upside if he can play 17 games.
Okay, Chris.
Dontavian Wicks, Ryan's favorite player.
All right,
Wide receiver 66, and he can lead the team in targets, lead the team in touchdowns. It's not crazy to say.
And Ryan, your favorite player, Dontavian Wicks, but is not your guy.
No, I actually agree with everything Joel said. It probably should be Watson, but Dobbs is cheaper. And basically, if you're looking for ceiling, you want Watson. If you're looking for floor, you want Dobbs.
Josh?
Yeah, I agree. Dobbs is the floor guy, but I still want the more exciting guy, and that's Jaden Reed. I'll pay the wide receiver 34 price. I don't care, because at that point, I probably already have 3 wide receivers, so he's going to be my 4, and I'm perfectly okay with that. So, I agree with everything that Joel said, because I do love Christian Watson. There was a point when I did my rankings that he was the top 20 guy for me. I'm in. I like Watson. Again, if he's healthy, he is the top dog in that offense, and it's not close.
My relationship with Jaden Reed lasted all of like 2 months, where I went from
short.
ready to marry this guy to get him as far away. I'm looking at teams that have him on him from like early drafts. I'm like, ew, like what was I doing?
Is that because he played 3% of snaps, not in 11 personnel?
Yeah, it's all of that. It's all the stuff that you're hearing about Tank Dell in Houston, and then you look at the playoffs, and it really went Christian Watson and Romeo Dobbs' way. And I don't know.
I just think they're going to spread the ball around so damn much that injuries aren't even going to matter. They just want to keep everybody healthy, and they're all going to be a damn headache.
Unless you have a hamstring injury.
Well, there's that. Yeah.
So I will say I'm going to make it
Tiebreaker.
even. No, tiebreaker. Bo Melton is going to be my pick. And if it's not Bo Melton, it's going to be Tucker Kraft. So there's 6 guys to choose from for you right there. No, I honestly, Reed, I think it's like, I think it'd be too spread out that I don't like it. And people are going to take these guys higher than I want them. Maybe I'll end up with the Dontavian Wicks, because that feels like a Joe pick, because it'll be the last pick in my draft. That feels really like a Joe pick right there. But we'll see. I'll go with Wicks to break the tiebreaker, because that's probably who I will end up getting. Sleepers. One or two of your favorite wide receivers outside of the top 36. Ryan, I'm going to start with you.
I'm not going to give a whole ton of explanation here. Brandon Cooks, Khalil Shakir. I think there's an opening in the wide receiver 1 spot in Buffalo, and I think Khalil Shakir is just as likely to take it as Dalton Kincaid or anyone else. And Brandon Cooks, we've talked about the holdout. My faith is in Brandon Cooks, and I'll just throw out there that from week 8 on last season, Brandon Cooks was a top 24 wide receiver, even a top 20 wide receiver for periods of that. Brandon Cooks can do his thing in this offense. I'm happy to invest in him at the end of the draft.
So I was right about Brandon Cooks if you take out weeks 1 through 7.
Yes, 100%.
Massive. I love that. I'm taking that. That's a victory lap for me. Joel, over to you.
I'm going to say the other elite rookies in this class, and that's Rome Odunze and Brian Thomas Jr. I think Rome Odunze is just the best receiver in that Chicago wide receiver room, and that's no disrespect to DJ Moore. DJ Moore was a top 25 pick. Rome Odunze is a top 10 pick. Does that mean you're
disrespecting Keenan Allen?
Yeah, I was gonna say we may have to kick you.
I'm disrespecting old fat Keenan Allen, but whatever.
Whoa, whoa!
Old and fat. He's still a top 2 route runner in the NFL.
I'm also old and fat.
So am I.
Ryan, I hate to break it to you. I think Keenan Allen's in a little bit better shape than you are. I hate to break it to you.
Again, Keenan Allen is the oldest fantasy relevant non-quarterback not dating Taylor Swift in the league. So there is that. I think
great stat.
Dog.
We've seen Odunze and Brian Thomas Jr. have connections with their quarterbacks, have big camps, and we've seen production from them. So I think those are both breakout players.
Okay. Chris, to you.
Xavier Worthy's pretty self-explanatory here. Another exciting rookie. Joel talked about two of the other ones. But, Cortland Sutton, we just saw Bo Nix be named QB1. He's Denver's wide receiver 1. Who else are they going to throw the ball to? Mims doesn't see the field. Troy Franklin's not going to see the field. Tim Patrick, yes.
Thank you.
But
Thank you.
Tim Patrick's not going to see 100 plus
I might
targets.
be cutting Bo Melton and picking up Tim Patrick again, folks. That might be happening.
It's not bad.
Fuck it, I'm doing it right now.
Do it. Sutton, someone I'm looking at. And then Joe's favorite, Mike Williams. I don't need him to play all 17 games. Give me 10 games with Aaron Rodgers.
10, that's it. 10, that's asking a lot. 10 is asking a lot, Chris.
6 games. He's going to be a wide receiver 1 or a wide receiver 2 in the games he's healthy with Aaron Rodgers.
Sorry, I'm literally picking up Tim Patrick as we speak. Josh, who are your 3?
Oh my goodness. I apparently have been talking to Hoove too much. JSN is starting to rub off on me. Again, I like DK. I like that offense. There's going to be plenty enough for everything to go around. And JSN did have 6 touchdowns last year. So love that upside there. DeAndre Hopkins, I feel like people are just forgetting about. He still had 1,000 yards, 7 touchdowns last year. I'm well aware that 3 of them came in one game. But that just shows you that Will Levis likes to throw to him. Yes, he's hurt right now. He'll get back into the swing of things. I'm not too terribly worried about that in an offense that's likely going to throw the football over 600 times, leaving enough for both Hopkins and Ridley to be very effective, especially at his current ADP, which I think is like wide receiver 40-something, which feels criminal.
And probably still dropping.
Yeah, right. And then last start throw, man, I'm going to go with Pop Douglas. I wasn't really too terribly high on him as the season went on, or as during the offseason, but I know he's coming back from a little bit of an injury. I know they like Jalen Polk. Javon Baker
Who?
Drops.
Who? Pause.
Polk?
What was his first name?
I've heard it pronounced Jalen as well as Jalen. So
I've heard Jalen once.
Oh, whoever did our wide receiver show with us called him Jalen.
Yeah,
Josh,
I think it was John Love did that. Anyway. But yeah, Pop Douglas is exciting. I think a lot of people in the Patriots organization seem to like him. He's going to get some run, and that's a very unsettled wide receiver room. He's dirt freaking cheap. You can get him in the last round. Why the fuck not?
Real quick before we go into deep sleepers, thoughts on Mike Evans. Ryan, I'll let you take this one because you're a Mike Evans guy.
1,000 yards. No, I like Evans.
It's guaranteed.
10 to 20 guy. His price is rising because we saw good out of him last year. And I'll be honest, as someone who has rode with Mike Evans from the day he set foot in the league, when his price starts to rise, he tends to disappoint. So it's just how things have kind of went. So if you have to pay the wide receiver 10 price for him, he's probably going to finish wide receiver 20 and you're going to hate yourself for it. But if you're looking for 1,000 yards and 5 to 10 touchdowns, you just don't know which one of those two numbers. So
the man is a lock for 1,000 yards. That's it. He's going to be great in real football. Fantasy might have to pay up, and it might not be worth it. Josh, this is to you. AJ Brown Wirth to pick up.
Oh, 100%. I think of all the top 6 guys
on the waiver wire. Did
nobody what is pick up?
I'm trying to figure out where Wirth pick up. I mean,
him.
Are we in a guillotine league that already chopped somebody? Yeah, he's an easy first-round pick in my opinion. I think I have him as my wide receiver 4 this year, and honestly, that might be too low.
Okay.
And I'm not trying to be a homer here. I legitimately think he has wide receiver 1 overall upside.
Okay.
You're not trying to be a homer. You are a homer.
Yeah. No, he definitely is a homer.
Kellen Moore is going to dial up a lot of passing plays, and those are all going to go to AJ Brown. So
fair. And we are going to end with the deep sleepers. Personally, my favorite. These are the guys that I think can win you some leagues. And yes, I did say that. I'm going to chime in on this at the end, but Ryan, we will start with you, and it is the Moon Man, Darnell Mooney.
Yeah, I think Mooney's being slept on as that wide receiver 2 there. We're going to see a lot more passing attempts in Atlanta than we've ever seen. They're literally calling the offense night and day as to what we saw last year. And Drake London is going to lead that offense. Kyle Pitts is going to lead that offense. But there's still going to be a lot of targets left over. And I think a Darnell Mooney with 100 to 120 targets could be something very dangerous in fantasy. And right now he has an ADP that puts him around the 14th to 15th round. He could literally be your last pick.
I second this, and also, big Darnell Mooney guy. Joel, to you.
Yeah, I'm just the rookie pimp, so I'm going to take Jalen McMillan in Tampa. Josh mentioned Jalen Polk. I think the best line about Jalen McMillan is no one would know who Jalen Polk was if he hadn't gotten hurt last year. And like Todd Bowles is a defensive coach, and he can't stop talking about how good Jalen McMillan has looked in camp. So I think he's going to slot right immediately in as their number 3 behind Godwin and Evans.
Chris, to you.
Dontavian Wicks is one of them. I do think he can displace Romeo Doubs in those 2 wide receiver sets. And if Watson stays healthy, him and Watson on the outside, he's the kind of player I'm looking for at the end of drafts, the kind that has 10 touchdown potential, and you don't know what the offense is going to look like this year because you don't. And he's the cheapest wide receiver by far out of those 4 of them.
Yeah.
And then Quentin Johnston, Austin Amendolia's favorite player. Shout out Austin. The Chargers had like 250 vacated targets. He's the cheapest one out of Josh Palmer, Ladd McConkey, and him. Again, same thing. Last pick of the draft. See what happens with the Chargers first 2-3 weeks. If it's not him, I'll cut him. If he is, then you strike gold.
Josh.
That's a fair point.
Greg Dortch. Because, if he's 6'3", he's the top 15 wide receiver, right? I mean, somebody's got to be able to be on Kyler's eye level for him to see. And
oh, my God.
That was a good line. I'll give you that one. I don't give you props enough. That was a good one. All right, I'm just throw out some names I'm looking at. I'm just looking at Fantasy Pros, ESPN, ADP, average right now, and we're going anything 50 and above. Darnell, I love. Rashid Shaheed, if you're in a league, especially with return stuff, and especially in a standard, because Rashid Shaheed is going to be just a deep ball menace. Contrary to what Josh said, I'm not the biggest Pop Douglas guy. I would rather Jalen Polk or Jalen, however the fuck you just said that. Jalen Polk, I would much rather. His camp has been he looks very good. Josh Palmer, please God, do something, Josh Palmer. I need you. I love you, and I think he's a fantastic. He's wide receiver 65. I'm excited about him. After that, holy hell, is there a drop off? I mean, if you really want to galaxy brain some shit in the final rounds, or you're in like a super deep league, Jawan Jennings, if Brandon Ayuk is missing time, if you really want to galaxy brain some stuff, I like Jawan Jennings. And then we're getting like out of this world fucking braining shit here. I like Brendan Rice. I don't think he's going to be consistent, but I like Brendan Rice.
Stop.
And again, we're talking, guys. This is literally wide receiver. Like they're going 237.
Who does Brendan Rice
overall.
even play for? I don't even know.
The Chargers.
The Chargers.
This is no competition. That's what I'm saying. There's no
This
competition.
guy's going to beat out Quentin Johnston.
Joe, I have to throw our guy
Yeah.
out real quick while you're just listing off names, though. I wanted mine to be Andre Yoshivas so bad, but all of the reports are is that they are just going to cycle their wide receiver 3 this entire season. I just wanted him to win that job.
But you know what, though? Everything that's come out, Jermaine Burton hasn't run away with it. Yoshibas
at one point it's the other way around, though. Yoshibas had the lead, and he is faltering at this point, is what I'm reading. So
I like Yoshi. I mean, Tyler Boyd in deep leagues, he's the third receiver on Tennessee.
Should know the offense better than the others.
Exactly.
He's going 200.
And Traylon Burks got hurt again today.
That's fair too, Chris.
If you really want to bet on the Steelers just fucking knowing receiver talent, Roman Wilson, they just somehow can't miss on wide receivers when they draft them.
Is he back?
Yeah, I was gonna say I haven't seen any news on him.
Yeah, I was gonna say don't draft Roman Wilson.
Ryan, you're drafting him in the 25th round. Like
there aren't 25 rounds, so we're talking about your 15th.
I have two.
Don't
I have
draft.
2 leagues with 25. So
Do you really?
yeah, I do. Yeah, IDPs.
IDPs?
So yeah, IDPs.
Oh, okay. That does change things.
Because
Okay.
fun leagues.
You know what?
Last one from Craig. Which I'm not too sure how to phrase this. He's kind of asking,
I guess if
Coleman
you're
or-
looking at ADP, yes, they're both. Coleman, it gets a little sketchier. If off the top of my head, I'm guessing he's going in the 30 to 36 range in ADP. MHJ is worth it. I think that's a great pick. You're going to have to invest towards the tail end of your first round to land MHJ, but he's worth it there. Coleman, it gets a little shakier. It depends on how you've built your team. I love the kid. Personality wise, he wins. He's 1 out of 1. It's just the ADP that worries me a bit. The people going around him, because he's going around like Deontay Johnson, and I'm taking Deontay Johnson 20 times out of 20. So.
No, he's not. He's actually dropped.
Oh, okay.
Keon Coleman is currently sitting at wide receiver 43 on ESPN.
Okay,
ADP.
so that is quite down from what I had been looking.
Worth a shot.
And he is, I'll give you 40 through 45. He's Xavier Worthy, DeAndre Hopkins, Roma Dunze, Keon Coleman, Ladd McConkey, Jordan Addison, and then if you want to go, Cortland Sutton as well, who I like most over.
I was going to say, we talked up everybody on that list today except for Keon Coleman. So.
And yeah, outside of McConkey and Jordan Addison. Who
yeah,
have
again,
injuries,
it's sketchy ADP, but I mean, hey, it's what we've been talking about with the Chargers. Someone on the Bills is going to step up. I think it's going to be Khalil Shakir, but if it's Coleman, it's a big fucking win at that price. So,
in terms of Marvin Harrison, are you taking Puka or Marvin at the end of your first?
Right now, I'm still taking Puka, but that is the debate I'm having every single time when I'm there. So.
I'm never in the situation where I would do that, but I'd probably take Puka as well. I also got stuck with the first pick in a 14-team league, and I want to die. I want, but like, Christian
what am I going to do with the best running back in fantasy football?
But guys,
I get McCaffrey.
Guys, I get that I get Christian McCaffrey. I have to wait 28 fucking picks for the next guy.
Rough.
I don't like that.
We talked about on the mock draft show for the big leagues is being on the turn is nightmare fuel.
Sucks, dude. I fucking hate it. Also, I don't love these calf flare-ups from Christian McCaffrey right now. And I'm going to draft him.
And no Trent Williams.
Yeah, like, listen, I don't like that. I don't like the calf flare-ups. I'm going to draft him knowing in my head that I think Breece Hall finishes higher than him. But I'm not going to take Breece Hall over McCaffrey. I'm not stupid. I have to take him. I hate myself. It's my work league, too.
Plant your flag.
Just get Debo, so then you've got the backup in case.
I can get Debo in the 11th if I'm in Josh's draft, so that's perfect.
That's true.
Okay, just real quick for the real Joe that is here, you got CMC and Bijan in a super flex mock.
That's a
win.
Yeah, in a super flex you can make that.
I say to be fair, I did that.
But like when?
I did that in Scott Fishbowl last year. So.
I mean, like I'm totally like if you got that, you wanted to wait on a quarterback, sure, but like that's my kind of super flex draft right there.
That's a Joe draft right there.
You know what? Joe's been listening to the show.
I mean, that is literally a Joe draft. So.
And then he went Caleb DJ Moore. He's been listening to the show for so long, he got DJ Moore in the 4th round.
I know the running joke has been this is Joe Zollo's burner account.
But
I'm really starting to believe it now.
This is to a T. That is to a T on how I would fucking draft right there. That's exactly how I would draft. In a super flex, I would the quarterback in the 3rd round and pair him with the receiver, and it's receivers DJ Moore. Standing ovation. That is yeah. That's actually crazy that he did that, and I've influenced him to more in the 5th. Oh my God. Pitch me a 10th. That sounds awesome. That sounds fantastic. All right, gentlemen. That is all she wrote for the receiver show. I'm going to take a wild guess and tell you that the tight end show won't be that long. I'm going to just throw it out there.
I won't even be here, so that'll help.
I don't want to be. I don't want to be here. So
give a 45-minute soliloquy on Isaiah Likely.
Yeah, I mean, what do you? We could come with a poem. We could,
I think there's a lot to talk about with the top 12 guys. Truthfully,
shut the fuck up. No, there's not. Go away.
Just saying.
Go away. No, wrong, incorrect.
Fine, I won't show up. You can carry the show yourself.
I will talk shit about tight ends for an hour and a half. I will extend the show just to talk shit about the fucking tight ends. Horrible fucking position. They're glorified kickers.
I love that I just timestamped this outro, and this is just us shitting on tight ends for the whole end of the show.
Yeah, Craig, I'm happy for you. And I appreciate you showing up for the show this week. And I appreciate you. You had some great questions. And I hope you show up next week. And what I hope is after that show, you don't like tight ends. Because I won't be saying a lick of good shit about the tight end position. But I'm happy for you. And I'm happy you live in the blissful state that you are currently in at the tight end position. If you're like me and run the carousel, you want to jump off your balcony every Sunday at 8 p.m. when your tight end scores 2 points. So that's where I'm at. Oh. So I was ending the show, and then we got here. We have one final week of Women of Fantasy Football, hoping to cross that 3K mark. Josh, the 2 jerseys this week are?
Signed Jalen Hurts.
If that one gets lost in the mail, folks, you know why.
Yeah. No, this is the one you got to worry about.
The one that actually will get lost in the mail. A signed Jason Kelce. Kelly Green. Eagles
Kelly Green, throwback Jason Kelce. Yeah. So
WomenOfFantasyFootball.com. Click on any of the graphics. It'll take you over to where you can buy your raffle tickets. $5 per ticket. 100% of the sales go towards our WAF Galvanized Scholarship.
For all you Swifties, that just puts you 1 degree away.
That's right.
From Travis, which then puts you 2 degrees away from Taylor. So when you 1 degree away from Josh, which is arguably the best prize of them all.
You should buy 13 tickets.
Yes. And Joe, you can do that.
Oh my God. That's what I need from everybody. 13 tickets, just all the way down. That's what I want to see.
That's Ryan. That was good.
Straight up. That is going to be in all of the advertising that I post on this shit.
That, or you just make every ticket $19.89. You could do that as well.
Yeah.
Josh's version.
Josh's version.
Josh was trying to run the fucking math in his head. Like, why is it $19.89? He was trying to run.
This is how you know I'm not a Swiftie. The way Chris is.
Yeah, you guys took a second, so I'm like, I'm the only Swiftie in the room.
I have coworkers that are through the roof Swifties, so I am adjacent to that. And Joe, you can get all of that. Just go to our Twitter. You can see how to do it. That's the easiest way. Just go to our Twitter at Club Fantasy FFL. The URL clubfantasyffl.com. Same as Instagram, same as Facebook for social. Josh, Chris, Joel, Ryan. Apparently half the squad won't be here next week. I wish I could do that. You know, I wish.
The guy who misses more shows than any of us.
I just don't understand. Like, I don't understand. The shows I miss are the good ones, and the ones I don't miss are the fucking tight end shows. Like, why can't I miss the tight end shows? That's all I ask for in life. Always remember, defense wins championships, offense wins fantasy football. We will see you next week.